In post-war London, a charming, well-dressed gentleman named John George Harlow is quietly dissolving his victims in baths of acid. He preys on wealthy widows and trusting acquaintances, murdering them for their money and their property. One by one, he lures them to a workshop and lowers their bodies into a tank of sulphuric acid. He believes he has found the perfect crime, certain that with no body, no court can ever convict him. But he is wrong, undone by a single gallstone that the acid could not destroy. This is the story of the man the press will come to call the acid bath murderer. He is a dapper, debonair fraudster with a neat mustache and impeccable manners. For years, he has lived by his wits, conning and forging his way through life. He has already served 3 terms in prison, twice for fraud and once for theft. But petty crime never pays enough, and Harlow has developed a far darker plan. He has come to believe that the only safe victim is one who can never be found. So he murders for money and makes the bodies disappear completely in acid. His first victim is a young business acquaintance he lures to a basement workshop. He then forges letters in the dead man's name to keep the family from worrying. A year later, he murders that man's elderly parents in exactly the same way. He seizes their houses and their savings with a stack of forged documents. He lives lavishly on the proceeds until inevitably the money runs out. Then he kills a doctor and his wife, dissolving them both in his acid tank. Again, he forges the paperwork and sells the murdered couple's home. By 1940, he is in debt once more and hunting for his next wealthy victim. He finds her in the genteel hotel where he lives among elderly widows. She is a rich widow who trusts him completely and dreams of investing in his business. She follows him to his workshop and is never seen alive again. When her friend reports her missing, the charming gentleman calmly plays innocent. But a sharp-eyed policewoman senses at once that he is lying. A criminal record check reveals his long history of fraud and theft. Police break into his workshop and find carboys of acid and a hatbox of stolen papers. Confronted, he confesses with chilling pride and asks how they can prove a murder with no body. He does not yet know that the acid has failed him in one tiny, crucial way. A pathologist sifts the sludge and finds gallstones, bone fragments, and a set of dentures. The dentures are identified by the dead woman's own dentist. With that, the perfect crime collapses, and Harlow is sent to the gallows. John George Harlow was born in the north of England in 1909. His parents belonged to a strict and joyless religious sect that shuns the outside world. He is raised in a rigid household where pleasure and play are treated as sins. As a boy, he wins a choral scholarship to a respected grammar school. The scholarship requires him to sing in the services of the Grand City Cathedral. The clash between his stern home faith and the soaring cathedral unsettles him deeply. He later claims it left him haunted by strange and disturbing dreams. He describes nightmare visions of dark forests where the trees seem to weep red. Whether the visions are real or invented, no one can ever truly say. As a young man, he marries, but the marriage barely lasts a few months. Within a year, he is jailed for fraud and abandons his wife on his release. Over the next several years, he drifts in and out of prison on and again. With every sentence, his contempt for honest work hardens a little more. He becomes a smooth and practiced liar who can charm almost anyone he meets. In 1943, he announces that he is finished with crime and going straight. He moves into a quiet, respectable hotel and rents a small workshop nearby. There he claims to be an engineer, working on clever new inventions. In truth, he is already planning to kill, and he has chosen acid as his weapon. In the dark days of the Second World War, Harlow struggles to make money. He survives by stealing and trading ration books and coupons on the black market. But he dreams of something far larger than petty wartime fraud. In 1904, it turns to an old acquaintance named William McAllister. William manages a local amusement arcade and trusts Harlow as a friend. Harlow lures him down into the basement workshop on a quiet evening. There he kills him and lowers the body into a drum of concentrated acid. Over days, the acid reduces every trace of the man to a thick sludge. Harlow simply pours the remains away and tells himself it is the perfect method. To stop anyone searching, he forges letters in William's own handwriting. He tells the family that William has fled the country to avoid the war. For months, the lie holds, and no one comes looking for the missing man. Emboldened, Harlow sets his sights on William's elderly parents. In 1945, he invites the trusting couple to London and murders them both. He dissolves them in acid exactly as he did their son. Then he forges a mountain of documents to claim their entire estate. He takes possession of 5 houses and a fortune in securities. He sells off everything and lives for a time like a wealthy gentleman. He wears fine suits, stays in good hotels, and gambles freely. The respectable engineer is, in truth, a murderer growing ever bolder. But money slips through his fingers as fast as he can steal it. By 1947, the fortune is gone, and Harlow needs to kill again. Harlow now moves among a wealthier and more respectable class of victim. In late 1947, he meets a doctor named Archibald Harrington and his wife Rosalie. The couple are looking to sell their comfortable London home. Harlow poses as an interested buyer and wins their trust over many weeks. He quietly steals the doctor's own revolver during one of his visits. In February 1948, he drives Dr. Harrington down to the Crawley workshop. There he shoots the doctor with the man's own stolen gun. He lowers the body into a tank of sulphuric acid and waits for it to vanish. Then he returns to the seaside hotel where the couple had been staying. He tells Rosalie that her husband has fallen ill and needs her at once. She climbs trustingly into his car for the long drive to Crawley. She meets the very same fate as her husband in the acid tank. Harlow forges deeds of transfer and sells the couple's London house. To their friends, the Harringtons have simply gone abroad without a word. The acid leaves no body, no grave, and seemingly no evidence at all. Harlow is now certain that he has perfected the undetectable murder. His workshop holds only carboys, drums, and the faint smell of chemicals. Nothing there looks like the scene of a single crime, let alone many. He keeps careful trophies, though, of the people he has erased. In a hat box, he hides their passports, licenses, and personal papers. It is a vanity that will one day help to hang him. For now, he spends the stolen money and waits for his debts to grow. Each victim has bought him only a little time and a little luxury. And soon the debts return, and Harlow goes looking for one more fortune. By 1940, Harlow is living in a discreet private hotel in South Kensington. Its residents are mostly elderly, well-off widows with no families left. To these lonely women, the well-mannered gentleman seems perfectly charming. None is more taken with him than a wealthy widow named Olive Drummond. For weeks they sit together in the lounge, talking business and inventions. He tempts her with a scheme to manufacture artificial fingernails. He invites her to visit his factory in Crawley to see it for herself. One February afternoon, she leaves the hotel to meet him and never returns. At the workshop, Olive Drummond meets the same end as all the others. Harlow strips her of her jewelry and her valuable fur coat. He sells the jewelry to a dealer and leaves the fur at a cleaner's. Back at the hotel, he calmly claims that she failed to keep their appointment. But Olive's friend, Constance Lowell, has never trusted him for a moment. She insists on going to the police to report her friend missing. A watchful policewoman is sent to the hotel to make enquiries. Within minutes, she is certain that the charming gentleman is hiding something. A check of police records reveals his long history of fraud and theft. Detectives travel to his workshop in Crawley and force open the door. Inside, they find workbenches, carboys of acid, and drums of chemicals. They also find a hat box crammed with other people's passports and papers. At the bottom of it lies a revolver and a handful of bullets. They trace the missing widow's jewelry and furs straight back to Harlow. Brought in for questioning, he decides there is no longer any point in hiding. He calmly announces that Olive Drummond no longer exists. He has destroyed her with acid, he says, so how can they prove any murder at all? Harlow is sure that without a body, no jury can ever convict him. But the police know they must first prove that Olive Drummond is truly dead. They call in a brilliant pathologist named Dr. Keith Stanton. He travels down to the Crawley workshop to examine the acid sludge. As he studies the ground, he picks up a small, polished stone. It is a human gallstone coated in fat that the acid could not dissolve. Older, heavier people often carry such stones hidden inside their bodies. It is the first proof that a human being was destroyed in this place. The sludge lies 4 inches deep across the workshop floor. Stanton has the whole mass dug up and taken to a police laboratory. Over 3 days, he sifts it for anything the acid has spared. He finds more gallstones and many small fragments of human bone. He recovers part of a pelvis that clearly belonged to a woman. He finds the handle of a red handbag and the metal cap of a lipstick. Worn foot bones are matched to one of the missing widow's shoes. But the most damning discovery of all is a set of dentures. They are identified beyond any doubt by Olive Drummond's own dentist. There may be no body, but there is more than enough to prove a murder. Harlow goes on trial at a packed-assize court in the summer of 1949. His lawyers argue that he is insane and cannot be held responsible. He claims he drank his victim's blood, hoping to be judged a madman. But the doctors who examine him all conclude that he is perfectly sane. The prosecutor destroys the defense by exposing him as a habitual liar. The jury takes only minutes to find John George Harlow guilty of murder. He hears the verdict calmly and remarks that there is no use crying over spilt milk. Vain to the very end, he even asks if he may rehearse his own hanging. On an August morning in 1949, he is led at last to the gallows. He goes to his death swaggering, certain that he has made history. He leaves behind a chilling boast that he created more sensation than any film star. If you have followed this channel, you have seen how charm and respectability can mask the coldest of killers. You have watched a drifting woman shoot 7 men dead along the highways of Florida. Next time, we cross to the broken, starving Germany that followed the First World War. There, in the city of Hanover, a police informant prowled the railway station for victims, even as the law he served looked the other way.